Northerly the leader. Old Comrade down the outside. Northerly shows the way from Old Comrade. Sister Patricia, Corporate Bruce and home run. But Northerly, Danny Miller coming away. And Northerly wins the railway from Old...
Here's Lucky Gray coming down the outside now. Godspoken's got up on the fence. Mr. Moet though hits the front. A boil over. Mr. Moet first up. He's won the railway from Lucky Gray. Not sure about third. Playing God has spoken. Rosie Rocket. What a win it's been by Mr. Moet. Won't the Corks be a popular? I don't care. I love her eyes and her wild, wild hair. Terrific down the outside. Platinum Rocker and fire up. Fifi stride for stride. Platinum Rocker fire up. Fifi. Lucky Gray. Lucky Gray on the outside. Swamp them. Gather them up. It's another one for Lucky Gray. Lucky Gray's got home to win his second railway stakes from either Platinum Rocker. Scales of Justice, and the Durban Demon has kicked him away. Scales of Justice led 3 lengths to Good Project. Perfect Reflection, but Dougie White's going to win it on Scales of Justice. It's a mighty West Platoon. He's coming down the outside, and so's Regal Power. Regal Power levels up, grabs the lead. It's Regal Power. Regal Power on the outside. The Wizard has done it again in the railway. Here comes Inspirational Girl. She's starting to thread her way through the field. Inspirational Girl, Pike under hands and heels, ranges up, grabs the lead. It's a winning hat trick for the Wizard and goes. Pike's hardly flinched, 150 left to go, and the Hot Pot storms up, grab the lead. This is all over. It's all over bar the shouting. The Empire reigns supreme. Western Empire won it by...
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
We're in the Wild Wild West one last time as we preview Gold Rush Day. Thanks so much for getting our good look at tomorrow's big prize money up for grabs. Will the quality be there? Will we find them the right way? Let's certainly hope we do. Via Vince Accardi from Daily Sectionals. Good morning, mate.
Oh, Ralphie, how are you?
Well, I'm all right, but I'll tell you what, the locals need to fire. Well, they can tomorrow because there's no Eastern Status to take the money from them.
Yeah, just been crazy.
Yep.
Compared to past years, been very, very, very different. But we just got to deal with it, Ralphie, as best as we can.
Well, it looks like we're going to get good conditions as we usually do in Perth. When the rail's back to the true, now we've had a few issues with some of the lanes being not in play, but with the rail back to true, I dare say we're going to get a typical Ascot day tomorrow.
We will, Ralphie. 4 to 7 off the fence is going to be, excellent. Up on pace is going to be a distinct advantage. I mean, even if you just look at the early intel, 4 to 7's around 40% strike rate, and on pace typically around that 43, 44. They cancelled the meeting at Pinjarra because too hot. Gee, I didn't really give any consideration to that. Could we end up being too hot on Saturday?
Well, the Perth forecast at the moment's for 27. So no,
okay, that's good.
Looks like that's fine. So 31 today, 27 tomorrow. So absolutely should be no problem whatsoever. We'll start obviously with the Gold Rush here. A few different dynamics. One being some horses on the quick backup. Others have come from the railway. Others up and trip from the Winterbottom. A few are going to try and peel back who's set for this and who may have already fired their best shot. As far as the pace is concerned, where's the starting point here?
Yeah, it's good pace, Ralphie. Valor Road, Red Can Man, Comfort Me, Boss. I'd say that looks like the group that's going to create that first level of speed, rope them in, Wind and the Line. They could also create part of that pressure point. I spent a fair bit of time on the mapping yesterday, Ralphie, and 4 to 5 lengths above the benchmark standard early. On the low, maybe +1, but I am predicting that we're going to be up there in speed. again, Ralphie, there's always that chance we can go supersonic fast and go 7, 8. There's always that chance. And then there's that possibility that we might be around that +1 range. But I'm expecting, solid pace.
There's a different dynamic in play, unfortunately, with Pikey injured. I think it was an off-track incident too. So he's not riding tomorrow, and that's our obvious starting point with Western Empire. You're doing the work, Vince, before, I've got to you and you open up your early edition race speed profile with Western Empire on top. Is this just the case of, if this horse is right, he should win?
Ralphie. Exactly that. That's what should be happening. Just what you said. If he's right, he should win. Of course, he's got to come from the wide gate. It's pretty busy in the middle of the pack, not as busy up the front. So in other words, if you're coming all the way forward and you're going to sit in that first or second line, there's a lot of room. But there's also a good level of room on the third line. Where it's really busy is 4, 5 and 6 pairs back. That's where all the heat is. What's Billy Egan? I've got him at the moment, Billy Egan, possibly in that third line, wide, but a chance to get cover. So is he going to maybe use a little bit more petrol and push himself maybe into that third line? If he gets into the third line and gets there, I'd say we're going to be in a really good spot. But if he's in the fourth line, we might be stuck 3 wide with a bit of cover. And I hope he doesn't go all the way back, though. That wouldn't be really good. I would say that
the dead cold ride could be poison, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's a lot of traffic, and
Yep.
the lanes aren't going to really be working for you. Taking that away, he does have a little bit up his sleeve against this competition, I feel, and he's coming to the top at the right time. So that part is all like a giant plus.
We'll put some numbers on the bone here with your IVR forecast 2 lengths above benchmark. That is so in this horse's wheelhouse. So what do you do first up? And then let's just say a bit of an RDO. We lost the day off in the winter bottom. He was in traffic. I think Pikey blamed himself for zigging instead of zagging a couple of times. So if we put that aside, or maybe put that as a bridging run, let's say, for this being its grand final, what type of numbers can he produce compared to the rest of the field?
Well, realistically, he came in first up, plus 1.6, Ralphie, second best performance of the day. And I felt he really lit it up in terms of what he did off a long break. It was excellent. Like, you couldn't have expected a better return than that. It was more dynamic than what it did the previous campaign. It was over a shorter distance as well, which for me, I was like, all you could be was in awe of the way the horse returned. Second up, really interesting, Ralphie. He went out, I felt, at a really good speed. First up, 1.7 below, but second up, he's gone up 100 metres and he's running half a length above benchmark. So still showing the horse had a fair bit of tenacity about him. And mind you, he is 5 lengths from the leader and they're running fast, but this horse had no issues with that. Even in the mid-race, still travelling just over 3 lengths above benchmark. And then that overall taper, the horse really, in my view, lost the velocity from the 600 to the finish line, even though it was above benchmark last 200 metres, but overall it was down about 3 lengths. It had to be a great conditioning run. Up 200, gold, absolute gold. If it was drawn the middle, it'd be a standout bet, Ralphie. Like, if it was drawn like 7, 8, 9, it'd be a standout proposition. Like, I would almost mark him unbeatable.
Well, so it's a good starting point. You've got Magnificent Andy landing second at the moment. Bar plates, again, I suppose, is one thing to put on the table. But back to 1,400, that is clearly his best distance. And he won, actually, this day last year when the great Ollie won on him before he weaved that miracle on Munamek in this big gold rush. How does he line up, Magnificent Andy?
It's a pity about the bar plates, Ralph, because this horse drawn, I'd say, almost gold for the type of the way this horse likes to run and how it likes to position itself. But the reality is this: he could be all the way he's got the potential to be in the second pack, but there's probably a high probability he might find himself in the third or fourth pack where it is a lot of traffic, but his towards the inside. So it does still put him in a safe place. Unfortunately, the bar place isn't good, but if I'm looking purely on run lines, it's gold. It is absolute gold. They couldn't have scored it any better. I'm sort of taking the position, whilst he might lose a little bit of speed, and I have the horse a little bit further back, I just feel that coming back to 200s is better for the horse overall, and they've given him the 21 days. The bar plates, though, Ralphy, I doubt we're going to be able to see this horse come to a plus 2.6. I'd like to score it there in the sense that this is probably what the horse is very capable of doing in this race on Saturday, but I'm not sure if it's going to do it with the bar plates on. It might hang around that 1.9, which we'll be looking for lots of other mistakes, and I don't know if he's going to get that advantage, where other riders are going to make a lot of mistakes.
This time last year, I know we were talking about a couple of runners on the quick backup from the Northerly. This brings us to the co-favourite Super Smink. In traffic last week, it was a sound run. Running the railway was terrific, but 7-day backup, 1,800 to 1,400. Can she have speed in the legs, or was she a risk of this type of profile leading into 1,400? Just sort of struggling to have that early speed.
Well, barrier-wise, drawn well. Where it's going to be positioned, it's pretty much going to be in the second last line. I'm not liking it if you're that far back, because it really means you're going to be 6 pairs back, Ralphie.
Yep.
That's a long, long way away. From a distance point of view, it's hard not to sort of appreciate the horse is better off at coming back. And this horse has been doing some thumping performances. But did we see the end of the run last start? It was fairly negative last 200 metres compared to all its previous runs. And now I'm putting that down to the 1,800 metres. I felt the horse had its chance at one point in the race, but then didn't finish off anywhere near as well as what it done in any other run for the campaign. I do feel coming back to the 1,400, that horse has got the ability to regain that velocity late. It's probably going to have some energy. Even the 7-day backup, I don't see that being a problem. Coming back to the 1,400, I feel is going to be an advantage. But the intel's saying the horse is topped out. So what did we do? So I came back and said, okay, well, I'm going to say, let's say the horse is topped out and it's going to hold its line, but not take the next step. Then the highest we can score it is about plus 1.8, maybe plus 1.6. Now, is that going to be enough? Being that you're going to be probably 6 pairs back.
Next couple of veterans that you've got in your most advantage to round them off at this stage is Comfort Me and Hot Zed. Comfort Me ran third in this race last year. He seems like he's got the right profile here. Again, 3 weeks between runs after running a bottler at $41 in the railway, and he'll give himself every chance, won't he, from that barrier. The question is if Holly Watson can slot in. Yeah,
well, I feel he will slot in. Absolutely. From the on paces, they've got some big edges here, and Comfort Me, first and foremost, out of all the lead pack runners, gets the best advantage. The only negative that could come from it, if they go to the overreaching stage, as we sort of touched on at the start, if they just find themselves having to go plus 7, which this horse can sort of touch that speed. Hopefully, Holly isn't looking to do that, right? And doesn't apply that next level of pressure. If they can be comfortable enough, even if it doesn't own the front, be part of the front, then we're going to be a little bit more orderly and we're going to get to that 4 range, which is in this horse's wheelhouse. And I've worked it off that when I was doing the mapping, just to look at the energy distribution, if the horse can be travelling around 2.5 lengths above benchmark, it's the horse to beat. In other words, Western Empire will have to have the task to run this horse down. If it's going to go plus 4, that extra length and a half, it's still like right there, but it softens a little bit. It depends on like what Valor Road actually does. It would probably make it easier for Western Empire if Western Empire doesn't get caught on a limb.
So Hot Zed comes off third, and it was 100-1 for a reason in the winner bottom. He's a cracking old veteran, but he has been unplaced at 1400 last three starts, and it does suggest that at this stage, at this level, 1400 sees him out. But I guess from barrier one, he's going to get the go to sleep run.
Well, given that the on-pace runners are going to have some advantages, Ralphie, and we've got to look at the importance of that. That last run at 1,200 metres, plus 1.7 early, hasn't really been able to show that type of speed for quite some time. Like, we've got to go back to, in my view, early 2023, even potentially knocking on 2022 profile. That's what the horse demonstrated, and they're in the middle too, like super aggressive, 4.9 above, last 400, 0.9 above, and we got a taper. We got a taper in the last 200 metres of about 1.3 lengths. That was 100% all conditioning. So in terms of being ready, that run did the job. From a 1,400 metre perspective, the only run that I could really sort of look at, Ralphie, is if we went all the way back. Now, this is a long, long way back, right? But we've got March 22, 3.5 lengths above benchmark. Suicide pace, plus 9.2.
Yeah.
Suicide, right? But the horse ran third in a high-pressure race. Then we've got to go all the way back to 21, and the horse also ran 3.2 above. So the question is the horse trending to that? Well, what I can say to you, Ralphie, is I reckon the horse is trending somewhere near that. Let's say I slice one length off. That still puts him in the mid-twos and could get the breather just behind that first line and be in the second line. That's a great spot to be, Ralphie. Like a fantastic place to be. So I didn't want to dismiss this horse because of that reason.
So he's $26. So that's one that screams
massive overs, Rob.
Yeah,
massive
overs, and we'll put in your multi horses. Less than half that is Bustler. So actually, he was the one I was thinking of when it comes to Super Smink. Same stable that this time last year they backed him up off the Northerly. He just didn't have that speed in his legs. He was only beaten 2 lengths in the race. He sort of came home and ran fourth, going wide while Ollie weaved that miracle on Munamek. He's got the same setup this year, and I suppose the question is he going as well?
Well, I felt, even though the horse ran 1 length below benchmark last night, I actually felt the run had a bit more merit, definitely than the start before. Maybe not as good as the second up run. That's a +2, Ralphie. So that's pretty solid for this race. Are we going to see a +4 or better? No, and not at 1,800 either. I really, really doubt it. Like from what he did, and now coming all the way back to 1,400 metres, he's had 2 runs where he's used plenty of speed. He's going to lose some of that energy, but I do feel the horse is going to be hardened. Is he over the top? No, but is he going to run 4.5? No, I reckon he's going to be about maybe +2, so he's going to be respected.
Well, a couple from left field at over $20 I want to finish with by asking you. First one is Ripcord. Now, ran second in this race last year, went airborne. He ran third in the Winterbottom, and he was a 3-year-old at the time. Didn't come up in Melbourne. That trial, it looked pretty good on the 25th at Belmont. So the question is, if they've got him back and he just didn't fire in Melbourne, he's a happy horse again, I suppose on ability-wise, he can't be dismissed.
Yeah, so his challenge is he's drawn really bad as well. So that's his challenge. What are they going to do? I don't believe having the 42 days off, like if they want to go suicidal, and what I mean by suicidal is like, let's rip all the way up the front, because the horse has got the capacity to run maybe as fast as a half length above benchmark early, which would then seem on the edge of the third pack. But that third pack would mean you're going to be 3 wide probably, and a high possibility of no cover. So that's not good. So I'm sitting there, okay, what will the riders do? I can't see anything but push back. Now, the 42 days allows for a little bit of freshness. Is the rider going to have that control over the horse? where he's going to say, look, going to have to come back. And if he stays where he is, like where he's drawn, he's going to be wider than Western Empire. So he's either got to use more fuel, get in front of him, or he has to push even further back. And I actually see him potentially falling all the way back to the rear of the field, because anywhere else, he feels like he's going to get caught.
Yeah.
Like wide, like extremely wide in his natural running lane. And you're not going to go and burn all this fuel and then still be 3 wide in that third line running pack where, yes, you're going to breathe better in terms of like space, but I can't see how that's going to help you.
And I'll finish with Searching Rocks. Look, this horse was planted wide throughout that race, and you've touched on the race on the 9th. That was a really good time race, won by Casino 17. You got Bustler, Magnificent Andy, all these horses, and this horse was favourite for a reason. He was in really good form. Didn't really fire at the mile last start in the railway, but he's back to 1400. He got beaten in the nose by Western Empire at Belmont in May, and that was a pretty serious time. Now, he had the perfect run. He was barrier 1 that day. Maybe he has to get it tomorrow, but if he brings his best, if she brings her best 1400 profile, well, she has to be deep in the finish, given what your IVR forecast is.
Yeah, there is a case you can make. From a tactical point of view, could push itself all the way because it's drawn a bit awkward, Ralphie.
Yeah, another one.
Next door neighbour, Western Empire. In terms of natural pace, they're almost identical in terms of their natural speed. Slight edge to Western Empire, right? So Western Empire will still have a few more choices than Searching Rocks. Now, Searching Rocks could push itself all the way into the forward line and be 3 pairs back. And if it did that, there's even a possibility of protection in terms of getting some cover. Will that happen, given where the horse is in terms of its campaign and the amount of energy they used last start as well? Like, I've got this problem, Ralphie, about, getting my head to understand that 84 days is a spell, right?
Yeah.
And 78 days is a spell. But I still sit back and say you've been up since September. But you've had these 2 breaks in between. But since then, since that last major break of 84 days, you've had a half a dozen runs, and they've all been brilliant. They really have, without, unfortunately, getting on the podium. And I just got the feeling, Ralphie, that we're going to say the same thing. So I don't know. Is he reaching too high all the time, this trainer, and putting in? Maybe he could have gone in slightly weaker races, and there could be some extra ones there instead of now finding himself running 5th, 6th, 7th.
All right. Well, it seems like in summary, this is up to Western Empire. We'll talk business tomorrow, but if it comes to talent and he brings his A game, he wins.
Ralphie, if they were able to, take a little bit of a risk and try and push a bit forward and get into that third running line, if they could do that, we will be collecting money.
Last race in the day, it's a 1,500 metre handicap. Snippy Witch has the best recent performance, clearly, doesn't it? On a pretty dominant win at Geraldton. Doesn't mean it's a good thing, but I'm just saying recent performance.
Yeah, no. Well, Ralphie, I always say, I keep it pretty simple. If you've got the capacity to break benchmarks, it's always a good starting point.
Yep.
So I like that. When you break down that Geraldton run, the track was pretty fast, but still, you're running high-powered, right?
Yeah.
3.1 above first section, plus 1.2 in the middle, plus 5.5 last 400 metres. We've got to allow a little bit for the speed in the track, but on the Raws, it was plus 9.8, Ralphie. Like, that's a fast track. Well, the horses turn around and says, well, I love that. And I also love that. Now, the 17 days, is that enough? It could be. Why not? This Lucy Fiore is not a bad rider, Ralphie.
Yeah, I was looking at her stats. Yep.
Yeah, not a bad rider. Drawn perfect. What impact do you feel the last run's going to have? That's all I feel stands in its way, because I don't really feel the horse had much time to relax, but what it did do, it came to the top of its game, and now it's in a big field, but the reality is, I I just hope the horse hasn't lost all the speed, because if it's lost all the speed from that run, then the barrier ones could end up being your nightmare, right? But I'm hoping that there's still something left there for the horse, and tactically Lucy's going to be able to put it in the right position and be 3 lengths off him, because that's really what you want to be able to do from one, is be about 3 lengths off the leader. If you're in that situation, it's your race to have in the home straight. You just want a little bit of space, and there's always a lot of space in the home straight, Ralphy, at Ascot. Look how wide it is. They come off around the turn.
Like anything, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was trying to reverse engineer it. Obviously, I only do my homework for this when it comes to children form, for instance. But blinkers went on 3 starts back. Was there a chance that in that, I was trying to work out that 1400 defeat, was it a chance that it was flat that day on the 11-day backup? To try and make sense of the 1400 defeat when it ran second. It was a big run in the blinkers.
Yeah, and it might have been also first time 1400, Ralphy, for the campaign. A little bit of stop starting in that race for the horse as well. Probably didn't help it. This is at the Geraldton run when you were talking about the 11-day backup. But we did see the shining light last start about what it's capable of doing. Now, the race matrix is sort of saying trending, that overall field was trending a little bit softer, around 2 lengths below. But I had a good look at that line, and realistically, I still pin the horse somewhere on the bottom, around 1 length below benchmark, and benchmark plus a half at the top end. And I can't sit here and say, no, the horse is done. I reckon we've just seen the first peak.
It's a good starting point, isn't it?
Yep.
And just Yarrowlee lines up with Count the Sessions, and I just thought, well, Yarrowlee, you've come from a run in traffic last start. It was in severe traffic. Just never got to have a look at it. So I look at the starting price profile. It was half the odds of Count the Sessions, but its previous win was pretty good, wasn't it? 2 starts back, relative to what's required.
Yep. Well, you always got this downside when they go so slow. So that particular day, they've gone 12 and a half lengths virtually below benchmark. It's complete contrast to, one of its runs, back in May when it went 9 lengths above, right? So it's pretty wicked in terms of what the horse can do speed-wise. It has a lot of tactical capability. Now, when it went 12 lengths below benchmark, the +6 late, it demonstrated how much it loves when it can just breathe easy. And there's further proof to that. You can go back to March of this year where the horse went 8 lengths below benchmark and still produced the +6. So this is the line where the horse loves to be. If it can be in that space where it's typically running 6, 8 lengths below benchmark, this horse is going to have a thumping finish. Now, what are you going to do with barrier 17?
Well, the question is it a golden switch? Because last start it was in traffic. It'll have full momentum tomorrow. But are you saying that there's a chance that it can just be posted too far back?
Well, that, or are they going to? They've done it before, where they'll be aggressive and go forward.
Yes.
So maybe they'll look to go forward, but we've got to be aware it will lose half the speed late. Now, if it was me and I got no hope of being a rider, Ralphie. I'm scared to get on them, right? I'm scared of heights, scared to get on horses, right? Love them, though. If it was me, the rider, though, or if I was giving communication, go forward. Burn some fuel, because it's been proven in the past, if you can go in a forward line and be travelling 1 length below benchmark, yes, or 2 lengths below benchmark. No, you're not going to have the same 400-metre sprint, but you're still probably good enough to run +3, +4 last 400, and they might not be able to run you down. You'll be the first horses to be able to take the lead inside the 300. But if you go all the way back, you know what you're going to need, Ralphie. You're going to need luck. It's not a small field.
Yeah, there's a reason why Ollie was lauded for that miracle. It's hard to do. Race 7 on the program. It's actually quite a thin meeting, but a couple of these have got some nice talent. A few of these I've written up in sizzlers, including Bon Joy. I thought its run was dynamic first up and had a good look at its profile. Yeah, 1.3 lengths below benchmark, 15th in the day, but gee, it was a booming 19-length mid-race squeeze. How does she line up here just 2 weeks later after what she did, noticing that at the end of her last prep, and she had a very good spell, she put 4 in the row?
Well, all I can say is if it's not flattened, wow, what a return off a long break. Of course, no pace early. That's usually a help, right?
Yep.
That first section going almost 12 lengths below standard. The mid-race move was huge. It was massive. Plus 7.3. Last 400, plus 5.8. They got the horse on fire. Like on fire. So here we are, 14 days later. Probably would have preferred 21, Ralphie, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, 21 days, if you get trapped in and you get an upside down pace and they run faster than what you'd like, then that may impact you. But this is a small field. It's probably going to be good. It's not going to be, I don't believe it's going to be a burning pace. Just got to be able to, I do feel you're going to get some flatness out of those last two sections. I mean, Ralphie, what was it? It's 13.1 combined last 800 metres. We know that's red line territory. That's it. If the horse can overcome that, and there's the 11.6 below benchmark first section enough to do it, that's my only concerns. But the reality is, if I push that to the side and say, no, we're all good, then this horse is set to run right up to last campaign now. That's around that +1 range. And if it doesn't and it's flat, then it's a follow-up horse.
Well, using that same dynamic about the possibility that a monster mid-race can flatten you at your next start, doesn't that lead us to the Yonga Lass? Because, gee, she was super on the 16th, and then on the quick back up, she just didn't really have that energy in her legs, and she was $2.30 for a reason, because the market really loved what she did, rightly so, on the 16th.
Oh, gold. And this is and that's like spot on what you're saying. Here's the classic. Second up, 13.8 below benchmark first section, plus 2.9 in the mid, plus 8.7 last 400. Phenomenal. Did get in the lanes, right? But still, if we add that together, what's that? That's like 10. So it's 11 and a half lengths. It's huge, right? The downside for the horse was, unfortunately, and this can happen, right? The next start, it's happened to go 0.9 below benchmark.
Yeah.
Like massive turnaround. Even from the first up run, it's like 4 lengths quicker, Ralphie, right? Held its line superbly in the middle, only going about a length slower than the first up run where it would have had plenty of freshness in the legs. But then the toll took in last 400, 0.6 below benchmark. This horse is coming to the top. And I'm very confident this horse is going to run minimum 0.2 above benchmark. Now, if we peel it back, the horse can go probably slightly better than that, but just a little bit of reservation at the mile, right, about how much it can extend itself. But I'm confident that it's ready to absolutely hit that 0.2 above and probably gets a race shape that's going to allow that to happen, where it probably doesn't want the burning speed, Ralphie, like where they go very fast. I feel orderly. Golden Spot has to be probably the first horse to beat.
Well, it's $7 each way. It seems like an appealing price. And let's face it, if you're taking a quaddie, you might have to look for a skinny leg or two, because race 6, to use your phrase, Vince, we don't tell stories. I could not make head nor tail of race 6. Could you give us anything there?
Well, who's the current favourite?
Right, well, that's a fair question.
Or is it they're just all together like 8's the field or something?
Well, it's pretty close. Papa Vero Princess is $6, Red Tory's $8, Our Rocky Bay is $9, Chalima and My Jimmy single figure odds. Madam Magic not far off either.
Right. Well, our Rocky Bay going to go to the front. Not going to have trouble, I don't believe. Up to the 1400. I just feel that's where it belongs, although I can't help but feel that at the same time, is this horse potentially going to be trying to tackle longer distance? Because I know there's still some good races coming up, but I felt that if they were going to go to the front, the horse is probably ready for that type of battle. It's shown on a number of occasions it's got really good endurance. This could be an advantage. But for me, Ralphie, when you've got horses that are running like 1 to 4 lengths below benchmark in a big field, wow.
That's a raffle.
So I'd still rather get all the money that I would, let's say if I was going to throw some money at this race, I'd still rather get all that and put it on Western Empire.
Exactly. And as you can see there for the IVR forecast at this stage, minus 2.5 lengths below benchmark. So won't be a lot required there. A bit better in race 5, even though it's a sort of similar class, similar prize money race. And you've got Profit and Power on top, and I can certainly get it because it's third to Border Force. Was pretty solid 2 starts back before winning.
Well, you know where this horse is going? Straight forward, in a forward position. It's definitely coming up to its absolute top. I mean, I couldn't believe the energy that it showed last start going +6. Huge.
Well, that's the question. Is there any chance of flatness? Because, again, what was the raw time here?
Yeah, well, we're up to 1,800, but it's going to get back down to if they take the front, who's going to really put the injection in to test it, right?
Yes.
You know, and what's their capability? So I look at the horses that are around it, and their capability is probably benchmark. So this horse could come across, Luke Campbell, own the front, and could be travelling benchmark. That's 6 lengths softer than the last start, and the 1,800 metres all of a sudden looks like a fantastic place to be.
Just cruising along out in front on your own terms.
Yeah, well, you are. You're going to be able to roll along on your own terms. Competition-wise, it's got a little bit of an edge. It doesn't have a major edge, but it's got a bit of an edge. Will I produce the 1.6? Well, Race Matrix is sort of indicating this horse is probably a high probability of running -1.5 to -2 range, maybe -2.5, and it all comes back down to what happens in that first section. But if he's asked to, try and be aggressive, then maybe it's all going to come unstuck. But that run was pretty mighty.
So Border Force and Central Force comes through that race. War Matters is favourite. War Matters and Central Force, they're the other two in the market. It was such a crazy race shape there. Last start 2 weeks back on the 30th of the 11th, race 1. There was a tearaway leader, and anything could happen late when it was a blanket finish.
Yeah, well, firstly, War Matters. It's probably rock solid. Probably a negative 1.0 to 2.5 below benchmark type of profile. Yes, the last start, if you sort of really break it down, it's probably terrific for this sort of race, Ralphy, in terms of number one. Horse is pretty comfortable at running around that -1 range, and it isn't going to be 13, 14 lengths back, Ralphie. It's because, like you said, because of the tearaway. But the bottom line was that horse was travelling beautifully, just below benchmark through the first section. And the last 2 splits, they were all above benchmark. A little bit of weakness still very, very late. And I just feel that was to do with a couple of things. Number one, first time up to the 1,800 for the campaign, having to exert probably the highest amount of energy through the first section for the prep, but not overdoing it. Maybe, like half length, 1 length outside of the comfort zone, like the real comfort zone, created that negative split at the end and the conditioning blowout. Horse going to come to the top for sure. And then the other runner, Central Force, when you look at the setup of this one, this horse was a couple of lengths further back. I just felt the way this horse powered late was fantastic. Like, it was excellent. 3.8 lengths below benchmark, a few lengths further back than the other runner that we just talked about, and that was War Matters. The move in the mid-race, not over the top, 0.9 above, left it all for the last 400. Didn't really get in the lanes either, Ralphie, but plus 5.2. Fantastic.
In summary, at this stage, you're thinking that Profit and Power is the one to run down, and from there, there's that pack that we've discussed?
That's the way I see the race.
Yeah.
And they would be the central chances to take on Profit and Power.
Race 4 is an interesting race, over 1,400 metres there. The market's got 2 main chances, the Boss Lady and Rock and Rupert, further out to Hell I Am and Devoted. He's just trending the right way, the Boss Lady, isn't it?
Well, I love the fact that it's not a big field, but it's small field, still going to create some pressure because there's 3, 4 horses that all like to be up the front. And even though I've marked it average, but they could easily split and go much quicker than an average speed, they could when you got Bruce Almighty, Ralphie, you have a look what he did last start. He's gone out and run plus 3.4. I hope he doesn't bring that speed. Yes. And if he can be more orderly, that would be sensational, because the Boss Lady, I gave the horse very little chance of being able to win that race last start. Why? Because I didn't predict that they were going to go that slow. I thought it was impossible for that to happen. And this horse is travelling 9 lengths below benchmark, and look how dangerous it is. It was just blistering. The move in the mid-race to go 7.7 above. The squeeze was 16.8. That's almost a 3-second squeeze, Ralphie, right? Massive. Last 400, solid, plus 4.3. Here we are 14 days later, sticking to the 1400. Well, if we're travelling 3, 5, 6 lengths below benchmark, then the Boss Lady's going to be smiling again, isn't it?
So you've got Rock and Rupert on top in your early edition here, and Rock and Rupert, there's an obvious question coming off a big run in the Winterbottom at 1200. Is there anything in the profile that has you worried about it at 1400, given it's only had the one career one, and it was a long time ago?
Yeah, well, I love the move from first up to second up. It clearly demonstrated that it's taken a step forward in terms of its ability, going from 0.6 below benchmark to now being in what I consider to be rock solid +1 range already. Then you look at the structure of that race, 1.1 lengths below benchmark, having to go a little bit quicker than what it did first up, over an extra 100 metres. Loved the tenacity the horse showed in the mid-race, going +6.3. And then, the overall weakening of the last 400, when you look at it in isolation, it looks fairly aggressive. But if I look at it from the 600-metre line to the finish line, the taper's only about half a length. Where it really did all the work was in the middle. If they can get some breathing space in the middle, and I feel this is going to happen, because the only way you're going to overextend in the middle is if they absolutely jog early, Ralphie. But I don't know if they're going to do that. Not with Bruce Almighty. I just feel that they're going to run. And when I say run, they're not going to run frantic. They're just going to roll. Therefore, possibly eliminating the chance of a massive squeeze in the middle. And if that happens, this horse will get 14. Because here's the thing. If this horse can travel 1, 2 lengths below benchmark first section, it's going to be 3, 4 lengths off the leaders. If you don't have to extend in the middle and produce this big high-powered move, and you only have to move at around +1 or 2 so you can start to creep some ground, you're probably going to be left with a +3 or 4 last 400 at 1400, and you will get it. But if you've got to overextend and you're further back than ideal and you're going to use a whole bunch of energy in the middle, then you're going to be vulnerable.
I don't want to not ask you about Hello I Am, because it was really good first up. This showed a fair bit of promise with John O'Shea back in its younger days. It said that the team Williams has it right. Was last start a bit of a sort of sideways run? In other words, if you said that 1200 first up can project to a good 1400 performance, and that's what it ran over as a younger horse, what type? How does it line up with the other two favourites?
Yeah, well, I'd say, first of all, they got that first win. I felt that they probably got a little bit of a lucky ticket there, because what's happened was they've turned up in a race with no speed.
Yes.
And this horse is travelling 10 lengths below benchmark, roughly. Yes, had to use a decent move in the middle, but it's first up fresh, and then bang, last 400, super, 4.9 above. Couldn't have asked for anything better. But then second up, probably didn't get the lucky ticket. All of a sudden, this is the downside of going very slow and then turning around, and you're still reasonably fresh with a 21-day break, and yet you're running 3.2 lengths below benchmark, 7 lengths faster, massive overextension in the middle compared to first up. It's gone 5.5 above Ralphy. That's almost a whole second quicker than what it did first up, and coming off 1.5 seconds faster first section. So it's huge, Ralphie.
Yeah.
The horse is entitled to weaken. Mind you, I felt the horse was still running strongly right up until the 200-metre point, and I'm glad we've seen a big taper at the end, because if we didn't, then I'd be sitting back and saying, oh, they've probably got the horse really screwed down. That's not going to be good. But what's happened is the horse has lost 1.3 lengths of conditioning over the last 200 metres. Thank you. That's what I want to see. There's no way the horse is going backwards off that run. This horse is going upwards. So the test is this. What does that mean from a 1,400 metre perspective? This is what it gets back down to. Where do you position the horse? It's had a couple of cracks. No good, right? And it may just be a 1,200 metre horse. And it's going to come back down to what? What they do early.
So it sounds like at the moment for before we talk business tomorrow that you're pretty happy with Rock and Rupert on top.
Well, here's the thing. If that horse doesn't have to overextend in the middle, sometimes I wish you could just like have a bot agent and send it directly to the trainer and the rider and say, listen, I'm not charging you anything for this, but have you considered doing this because this is one of your kryptonites? And I can show you 3 other occasions when you've done that. Are you thinking about this? Yeah, that's what I'd love to be able to do, right? That's probably when I would like to make a comment, because then that would be the difference between wanting to back it or not, right?
That's right, exactly. And you can't beat self-interest still.
No, well, always.
All right, couple we'll touch on earlier in the day, though. The market said Twain's Angel v Keep Attacking in race 3. Twain's Angel won its first 6. It's been okay in all 3 runs this time in. Maybe set to peak. Keep Attacking, rock hard fit. Just keep attacking. It could be renamed. Keep showing up because that's what it keeps doing.
Yeah, fancy having a horse and winning all those races. You'd be pretty excited as an owner. Definitely would be, getting all your money back. I mean, I don't know what the cost for the horse, but they'd be pretty happy. And then comes out this campaign and not delivering the same level. But I always say, like everything, there's reasons for why certain things happen.
Yep.
And how can you help but not think that going back to 1,000 metres last start could have been anything good for them other than them saying, well, it's probably better than the barrier trial to go back to the 1,000 metres in preparation for a race like this.
Yes.
That's what I see. And this will be its first opportunity for sure to break through. You can pick pretty much any one of the run lines of last prep and say to yourself whether the horse runs benchmark, half a length below benchmark. It's all where it's probably most likely going to end up, but that's enough to get you first or second in this race, and you're ready. And you are absolutely ready, and probability for high pace, not that high.
It's a good sign. Well, it's low confidence race 1, low moderate race 2. I'll ask about race 2 just to finish with Final Siren. It's 3 from 3 first up. Can it be 4 from 4 tomorrow? Trial led in Seemed Sound.
Well, many, many years ago, got to go back a long, long time. And one of the things the bookie was saying to me was, we love horses that keep winning because people are going to keep backing them, but sooner or later they're going to topple. And this is how they can make a lot of money, because how many races can you physically win in a campaign? But every now and then, we just looked at the other horse from last campaign, won 6 in a row, so things can happen. But this horse has been in devastating form, I feel, Final Siren. Now, on the clock, it's, in my view, it's been hanging around that benchmark line, with the exception of the very last run, where it fell off a little bit. Now, the ground conditions, in my view, was probably the worst that it faced, and maybe unfair for the horse. Even though the other runs, the official reading is saying slow, but when you look at the raw figures, they were in the G4 ground, but not S5 or worse, where I felt that's where the horse was last up. Back on top of the ground with plenty of speed in it. Big chance for a rebound and testing its new PB of around that 0.3 range.
Nice. So it could be a couple of early collects on some horses that are in the market there. Okay, as always, we appreciate your support as a customer. We will talk business tomorrow when final editions of Race Speed Profiles come out, but hopefully you enjoyed the deep dive on a Friday into Gold Rush Day and via our year-round Carnival podcast.